right, we will call the December 18th El Paso County Planning Commission meeting to order. I am Jay Carlson, the chairman. Our voting members today will be Mr. Brew, Ms. Jack, Mr. Byers, Ms. Fuller, Mr. Schipple, Mr. Trowbridge, Mr. Whitney, and myself. Staff, do we have any reports?
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Megan Harrington, Planning Director. I do not have any reports for you this morning. I would ask Mr. Kilgore if he had any additions related to future meeting dates. Thank you.
Only update I have, sir, is that do not come in on New Year's. We're going to cancel that meeting. The next meeting's on the 15th
Okay,
of January.
January 15th, the
Yes,
next
sir.
meeting. Great, thank you. All righty, jump into our consent items. Well, actually, this is a time when we would hear anyone that would want to speak to us on items that are not on our agenda today. Is there anybody here who'd like to talk about anything like that? Don't see anyone. Approval of minutes. Anyone have changes or comments on last meeting's minutes? Seeing none, we'll approve those as submitted. Our first consent item, agenda item 3B, file number SF2511, final plat JJ Ranch subdivision. Would anyone like to see that heard as a regular item? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion. Is there anybody in the public that would like to see that heard as a regular item? Don't see anyone.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Schibble.
with regards to agenda item 3B, file SF2511 for the final plat of the JJ Ranch subdivision, I move for approval in accordance with the attached resolution with 5 conditions, 5 notations, and 1 waiver. And with the finding of sufficiency or insufficiency of water quality, quantity, and dependability, that this item before the Board of County Commissioners for their consideration.
Thank you. Have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, we'll take the vote. Mr. Brew?
Aye.
Ms. Jack?
Aye.
Byers?
Aye.
Ms. Fuller?
Aye.
Ms. Schipple?
Aye.
Trowbridge?
Aye.
Mr. Whitney?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, so that passes unanimously. Agenda item number 3C, file number SF2510, final plat, Glen Eagle View, final plat. Would anyone like to see that, either in the public or commissioners, see that pulled as a regular item? Seeing none, we'll move forward with that one. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Trowbridge.
as regards Agenda Item 3C, file number SF2510, the final plat for Glen Eagle View, I move that we recommend approval in accordance with the attached resolution with a finding with 8 conditions, 4 notations, and a finding of sufficiency with regard to water quality, quantity, and dependability, and that this item be forwarded to the Board of County Commissioners for your consideration.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you. Take the vote. Mr. Whitney?
Aye.
Mr. Trowbridge?
Aye.
Mr. Schipple?
Aye.
Ms. Fuller?
Aye.
Mr. Byers?
Aye.
Ms. Jack?
Aye.
Mr. Brew?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, so that passes unanimously. All right, moving into our regular items. I want to have the county attorney talk to us before we move forward in light of all the, we've had many requests to continue this item, so I'd like her to chat about that.
Thank you. For the record, Erica Keach from the County Attorney's Office. It's our understanding that members of the public have requested a continuance of the regular agenda items. Just so the commissioners and the public are aware, pursuant to the bylaws for the Planning Commission, only an applicant or their representative can request a continuance. However, it's also within the discretion of the commission whether you would like to continue an agenda item pursuant to the bylaws. In order to do so, if the commission is unable to make a decision regarding an agenda item, due to lack of information, then you can make a motion to do so. And I can read that portion. It's in section 2. If the commission is unable to make a decision regarding an agenda item due to a lack of information, such as specific evidence, studies, documentation, or other additional information, the commission may move to continue the action, specifically stating the reasons for the continuance.
Great, thank you. I'd like to have a brief discussion amongst commissioners if anybody has something to say about it. Mr. Trowbridge, I think you wanted to.
Yeah, thank you to the county attorney for that. I actually think it actually benefits everybody for us to go ahead and hear this today. First of all, it would be unfair to the applicant, I believe, to postpone this because they've done, the delay in the posting was through no fault of their own. So they're here today, they're ready to go. So I think it would be unfair to them, both in terms of time and money, to do that. But as I said, I think it's best for everybody to go ahead and hear this today, particularly those who are in the public who haven't yet had a time, they believe, to study this. They will actually probably gain more information in the next 45 minutes to an hour than they would in 2 days of trying to plow through stuff on EDARP. So I think everybody would actually benefit from learning today. And we aren't the final say-so. The Board of County Commissioners has the final say. So you can kind of think of this presentation and stuff today as a dry run when we do make a recommendation, but the Board of County Commissioners doesn't always follow our recommendations. So you actually have an opportunity to learn today, both the pros and the cons, and then you can focus, those of you who are maybe in opposition still have an opportunity to go home and focus your research in EDARP and hone your arguments so you can present those to the Board of County Commissioners in 3 weeks. So I believe this is best for everybody to move forward today.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? No other comments? I agree. I think it's best to move forward today. All of you folks will have a chance to talk today that want to, so we will hear everything you've got to say. But let's, what I didn't want to do is go through the whole presentation only to knowingly that we're going to continue it. I don't see that happening right off the bat here right now. So let's go through the presentation. If we find that after hearing your comments and the presentation that we think it needs to be continued, we'll have a discussion about that. But I'd like to go ahead and move forward today. And your presentation, if I'm right, is on both items today, correct? Together?
That is correct, Mr. Chair. My name is Joseph Leckie, and it will be one presentation on both the rezoning application and the final plat application.
Thank you.
So again, my name is Joseph Leckie. This is P2413 and SF254, the Hidden Creek Estates rezone and final plat.
Excuse me, we have SF253, is that file number, is that?
Might have had a typo there. I apologize. 253.
Okay.
I apologize.
No problem.
SF253.
Make sure we get the right number.
So I was the planner for these two projects. Daniel Torres was the review engineer, reviewing traffic, drainage. For public input, if you're watching remotely, please provide a name and a reliable phone number, and email that information to pcdhearings@elpasoco.com. This first slide is our hearing procedures. I know this board is very familiar, but for members of the audience and the public, we start off with a staff presentation on the items explaining what is being proposed, the processes, master plan components, after which I'll turn it over to the applicant, who will give a presentation regarding what they are developing on the property. Next, we'll move on to the public comment, which includes citizens in favor and then citizens against the applications. We'll then move on to the rebuttal by the applicant. After that section, we'll have questions for staff, and then finally a decision, which the Planning Commission makes a recommendation for approval or denial to the Board of County Commissioners. So the request before you today is for an approval of a map amendment, rezoning, and a final plat. The subject property is 28.54 acres. It's located on Hay Creek Road. The proposal is the creation of 6 single-family residential lots. Lots 2 through 6 will be served by a private road. The zoning is for the parcel is currently RR5. So to accommodate for the development of lot number 2, a rezoning must occur. That rezoning will be 3.5 acres just for that lot 2. The entire property will not be rezoned to RR 2.5. Again, just the 3.54 acres as proposed. The reason that the applicant is proposing this rezone is because the RR5 has a lot size minimum of 5 acres, while the RR 2.5 allows lots 2.5 acres or greater. Next, I have the criteria of approval for the map amendment rezoning. I do recognize that this board is ultra familiar with this section, but for the public, I would like to hold up this slide for a brief minute for everyone to review. This next slide is on the criteria of approval for final plat subdivision. And I'll leave up this slide with the next 2 as well for the public to closely review how these applications are reviewed and the criteria for approval of this particular project for the final plat. All right, my next slide is a vicinity and zoning map. This is to bring some context to where the property is, some recent development in the area, and to highlight a few different items. So from north to south, we have the Forest Lakes development. It's more suburban residential development. To the south is the Center Ice subdivision that was approved in 2024. It composed of a legalization of a legal lot, creating 2 5-acre lots. And then to the south is the subject property located off of Hay Creek. The most recent adjacent development is the Hay Creek Valley subdivision, approved in 2024. And then farther down to the south is United States Air Force Academy. Some additional context regarding directly to the east is the Hay Creek Ranch PUD, which contains 10 single-family residential lots, which range in size from 4 to 7 acres. And then some of these other points I just discussed on, but just to point out the 2024 approvals of 2 other subdivisions in this area. These next 2 slides are exhibits of the final plat to give a visual to what is being proposed today. So I'd like to first start off with Lot 2. Lot 2 will be the area subject to the rezone. So just that 3.54 acres will be the area that's rezoned to RR 2.5. So again, I'm going to go from top to bottom. So Lot 2 is a corner lot as defined in the Land Development Code, Chapter 8, Section 4.4D1. While Lot 1 contains historic existing access pre-subdivision regulations. The private road that you can see winding from north to south does contain a private floodplain crossing. The floodplain zone is to the north. To the south of that area is a no-build area for open space. So there's also including an access easement. So lots 6, 5, 4, and 3 essentially will construct driveways to that access easement to then gain access to the bulb, that private road, to go north to access to Hay Creek. And then to the very south, we have a no-build area due to slope.
What is the no-build area in the lots with the dashed line? I can't, it doesn't define it down below. It's off the page. What does that, what does
Sure.
that mean?
That's a preservation no-build. Are you talking about the lots that are the area south of the floodplain, sir?
Yeah, and then there's one north of lot 2 there, yeah.
That was allocated for preservation.
Resters, okay. All right. Thank you.
So next, this section of code has been discussed with other Hay Creek projects, and I want to discuss its relation to this current project. So Lot 1 has a historical access dating pre-1972. Lot 2 is defined as a corner lot. And I'll read that section of the code. A corner lot is not counted in the maximum number of lots on a dead-end road when the fire department determines that adequate emergency access is provided to the corner lot by an alternative road. Lots 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 will be fronting and taking access from a proposed private road. The maximum number of lots fronting and taking access from a dead-end road is 25. This bridges to the definitions within the Land Development Code of access and frontage. This next slide contains some very general information regarding fire suppression calculations. I'm not going to get to the technical side that's proposed in this graph, but I want to highlight that Monument Fire District has reviewed the subdivision application and has no objection to the proposed applications. There is a condition of approval regarding homes larger than 5,000 square feet that they would have to provide an alternative fire suppression scheme, such as in-home sprinklers. This is due to the calculation you can see on the right. Next, the dimensional standards for the 2 zoning districts. I highlighted the side setback as that setback beyond the lot size minimum are the only changes between the RR5 and the RR 2.5. These next sections are in regard to the county's master plan, the large lot.
I'm sorry, can we go back to that last one? I'm sorry to interrupt, but on the maximum lot coverage on the 2.5 or 2.5s, it said there's no maximum. It seems like elsewhere it states that the largest home you could build would be 5,000 feet unless you sprinkled it. When it says there's no maximum on the coverage, I mean, what does that mean? Could they cover the building with sheds and barns and everything else?
Technically, that is what the zoning says, is that in terms of structure coverage, that there is none for those smaller zoning districts. However, there are for those larger. So that condition is very specific to the project in regard to a fire item. If that answers your question.
But I don't understand. It's specific to the fire. What does that mean?
Due to Monument Fire, their calculations for delivery of water and firefighting suppression, that is what that plat note or that condition of approval is.
For the size of the house?
Yes, for the
Okay.
residents.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
So the master plan, the property is located within the large lot residential place type. Part of this section of this place type, and I'm not going to read the entire chunk of words here, but development in this place type typically consists of single-family houses occupying lots 2.5 acres or more. So the proposal seeks approval of a rezone to R 2.5 and a final plat to create one 3.5 acre lot and then 5 5-acre lots. It is noted that directly to the east of the subject property is the Hay Creek Ranch planned unit development that was approved in 2002 and does contain development guidelines that permit lots 2.5 acres or greater. Part of this large lot residential includes conservation design, and I did see that in that no-build area, a large swath of the plat is dedicated to open space. The area of change is minimal change developed. The areas surrounding Hay Creek have undergone some level of development, including some of the subdivisions I've listed throughout. Master plan recommends that these key sites are likely to see some increased infill and redevelopment. However, this development should remain within the overall character of the area. The key area is the Tri-Lakes. Part of that key area includes the United States Air Force Academy. We did work closely with the Air Force Academy. They requested a navigation easement, which the applicant did provide as requested. Next, the Water Master Plan. A 300-year water sufficiency finding is required with final plat applications. That is reviewed in two forms. First by the state of Colorado for a 100-year water sufficiency finding, and then the county attorney's office for a 300-year water sufficiency finding. Both of those have been gained, and I did include some relevant goals from the Water Master Plan.
Morning, Commission members. Daniel Torres with Department of Public Works. In terms of drainage, the property is located within a Zone A floodplain, which is Hay Creek that traverses the site. The floodplain administrator did require a floodplain permit to be required. That will be required prior to any development within the floodplain. Additionally, they required a less than 6-inch rise certification letter to be submitted, which the applicant has. Essentially, whenever there's any encroachment into the floodplain, as I mentioned, the floodplain permit is required. And if the improvements are minimal, I guess, less than typical, where you would necessitate a letter of map revision, which is a bit larger process, a less than 6-inch rise certification letter may be submitted. And that's an analysis that the drainage engineer would have to do to show that there's less than a 6-inch rise in the floodplain. They provided that, showing the rise being at maximum 0.4 feet at their crossing, less than a third, about a third of an inch just outside of the crossing, and no increase once it goes downstream. The development is within the Beaver Creek Drainage Basin, which is a fee basin, and those fees would be due at plat recordation. Per the drainage report, the site generally drains to the creek in a sheet flow fashion, so not really in a concentrated flow off the lots, keeping the existing patterns. Permanent water quality is not required per our criteria due to the large lots, and as well as less than 1 acre of disturbance proposed by the property. A culvert is proposed at that floodplain crossing. The drainage report, in summary, did identify that the negligible increase that this development will have in the stormwater flow would not adversely affect any downstream or adjacent properties. Any questions in regards to drainage?
So I want to understand this. I don't think, is this common to build a road across a floodplain?
Not common in the sense that it's expensive and developers try to avoid them.
Okay.
But it does occur in development.
And is it a dirt road?
No.
It's
No,
paved road?
It's a gravel road that'll
Gravel.
go all the way down to that cul-de-sac.
Okay, and then in a flood instance, is there risk of washout in these
That's where
lots
that
not being able to access egress?
that's where that culvert crossing was analyzed
That's
and
all good.
designed for that flow to go through there.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you, Mr. Chair. That was similar to what I was going to ask. So you're, and maybe the applicant can address this when they come up. but you're going to build across the floodplain, but then the driveway access actually runs through the entire floodplain, does it not?
Actually, and I know, I'm not sure how it's seen on your screens, but that cul-de-sac actually extends past the floodplain area, and they have an access easement that expands within the floodplain and outside of it as well. I anticipate that the
Right.
homeowners would
Right.
build their driveway
Well,
outside of
that's-
that floodplain
And
area.
that was my concern, is that, so you're talking gravel road or maybe even dirt road for the private
For the
road,
driveways
right?
from those.
So
Correct.
wouldn't those be prone to washout, especially if you had a 100-year flood event?
As I mentioned, they're outside that cul-de-sac. A good portion is outside of that floodplain. So we anticipate that they wouldn't do driveways within that floodplain. Additionally, some of the information, there is a county risk map study done by Colorado Water Board of Conservation, CWCB. That shows additional information in terms of the floodplain. Currently, what is mapped, as you can see on my cursor, what is currently mapped is a lot larger of a floodplain, and that's common with unstudied floodplain. Once you study it, what we find a lot of times that it's a lot more reduced. And if I could click on my next slide, look better on my screen on my office, but the little bit brighter blue is the
actual channel.
that actual channel across there. That hasn't been published, but it has been gone through the FEMA's QA/QC process. That just hasn't been published yet. And so once that is published, that floodplain would most likely reduce, and that would be the new mapped
Can
floodplain.
you go back to the last slide for me?
Yes.
Just so I understand your comment, if the cul-de-sac is a clot from basically 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock is outside the floodplain, is that right?
Yes.
And so you're saying you would expect them to put their driveways in that area and not the others?
Correct.
Okay. Thanks.
In terms of transportation, access is proposed via that private road. It is to be owned and maintained by the property owners as identified in the plat and the maintenance agreement that would be recorded, as well as the covenants that they have. It's not intended to be used by the public, so this would be strictly private for those residents. Traffic study was not required as it meets the criteria in the ECM for not providing a traffic study. 15-foot right-of-way preservation has been provided along Hay Creek Road. Additionally, there will be some shoulder improvements that the developer will do at that access point, giving an additional shoulder to get people off the roadway when they're turning in and out of the subdivision. And lastly, the El Paso Road Impact Fee Program does apply to this development. Any questions in terms of transportation?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So my last slide is regarding hearing notification. On December 11th, 2025, 11 surrounding property owners within a 500-foot radius were notified of the Planning Commission and Board of County Commissioner hearing dates. The Board of County Commissioner hearing dates for the final decision-making is scheduled for January 8th, 2026. And then to the right, I have photos of the public hearing posters that were posted by the applicant on the property. Are there any outstanding questions I can answer for the Planning Commission today?
Yes, Mr. Whitney.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Joe, can you find your 25 lot slide again for me real quick? Okay. And can you hold that there for 1 second? So reading all these provisions together, what do you conclude about a dead-end road and 25 lots in this project?
So we're viewing this subdivision as a whole. That, again, lot 2 is defined as that corner lot. And then 3, 4, 5, and 6 are proposed to be fronting and taking access from the private road,
Okay,
which is separate from Hay Creek Road.
okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Trowbridge.
So thank you, Mr. Whitney, for reminding me. I had a similar question. And I understand your point, Joe, but don't we actually have to step back a little bit? One of the comments we have in here from the public regards the broader neighborhood and this 25 lot consideration for both Hay Creek Road and as it feeds into Baptist Road. What are we to make of that? And how does the fire department, for example, interpret this rule?
So Mr. Trowbridge, I understand looking at the greater Hay Creek Valley in that manner. However, I am looking at it through what the letter of the code reads. I can't speak for Monument Fire beyond the fact that they initially provided some comments and recommendations, and then through the approximately year-long review process, they had their issues resolved, and the latest comment was that no objection or no comment. So I don't know if that adequately addresses your question, but that's how we are reviewing this.
Okay, so Monument Fire, which is the responsible department, has no further comments or concerns on this?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Ms. Fuller.
So when the Monument Fire Department made their comments, it was only to this particular division. This has come up before in this area about the 25 lots, and we're well over that many in this area as far as our accessing that road without the second egress. And it is it is the egress question. So when Monument Fire made their comment, it was just to this, or are they saying they can support the entire area with only the one egress?
So Ms. Fuller, when we send it out for review, it's for just this individual project. I can't speak really for them and how they interpreted the project, how it fits into a greater scope. I don't really want to speak too much for them, but it's my understanding they look at this project individual per our request.
Yike. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, one,
Mr. Whitney, go ahead.
that may be a totally accurate description of what they think, and if it is, that's scary. One would think they would be thinking about the whole area and 25 lots, not just a particular piece. There could be 400 lots made up of things that each one passes the individual test. So I hope you're wrong.
Commissioners,
Joe.
I'm going to throw Joe a helping hand and just reiterate the fact that Monument Fire is the fire protection district for the area. They have an adopted version of the International Fire Code in which when we send these applications, we expect them to review the applications per our land development code, our sections. We look at that, the fire department looks at that, and we also assume that the fire protection district is reviewing the code reviewing the project based on the International Fire Code. And I know there's going to be a lot of questions today about International Fire Code, wildfire evacuation, all of the things that we in the planning department are not going to be able to address. And so I guess I would just direct you back to your criteria related to, based on what you hear today, do you feel that, or do you feel that you have enough information? But Monument Fire knows the hearing is today. They provided their comments. They are not able to make it here today because I think they were feeling we have their written comments, but again, we don't, and we can't speak with them. So I can't tell you anything other than what we have on record.
Oh, fair enough for me, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate it.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Ms. Fuller.
So that number of 25 lots fronting and taking access from dead end, how was that number originally determined? Do we know?
As it relates to the land development code and how it is in this section of the land development code, we cannot tell you. It is not in we have a section of the Land Development Code that is related to fire. This is not that section. This is subdivision. This is under subdivision design. And so there's two separate areas. We do have wildfire mitigation, fire access, and water provisions in a separate section of the Land Development Code. I believe that is 6. This is in 8 subdivision design criteria. And so while there has been some conversation about where this 25 lots came from, I cannot tell you in the Land Development Code why we said the 25 lots. But when we are looking at it from interpreting the code, it
Thanks. Any other questions for staff? Thank you.
Thank you.
From the applicant now.
Good morning, Planning Commission. Craig Dowsey of Vertex Consulting. Good to see you all, and Merry Christmas.
Christmas.
I'm going to try to avoid repeating all the things that Joe said. Hopefully I can clarify some of the questions that were asked or some of the answers that were given as well. So to be clear, I'm going to also cover the rezoning and the final plat request that's in front of you today. I think Joe adequately covered this. One of the things that came up, I think it was Mr. Carlson, your question about this box area. You asked about the additional no build area. That wasn't anything required by the code. That was something that the property owner wanted to put in place in order to prevent anybody from building a house near the creek and actually trying to spread the houses out a little bit more. It essentially forces people to build a longer driveway, but in doing so, one, we disturb less area near the creek, but two, it actually spreads them out. So aesthetically, it allows for the subdivision to be a little bit more dispersed, thus meeting the kind of more rural nature of this area. Any questions on that? Okay. It is something that you don't normally see when somebody just puts a no build just because. So I understand the question. So Joe adequately covered lot 2 is the subject of the R2.5 zoning, but to be clear, the rest of the property does not require rezoning. We meet the 5-acre minimum for the remainder of the lots. Lot 1, there's an existing home there. Mr. Hull, who's the owner here, Mr. and Mrs. Hull, live on lot 1. This is very personal to them because these are all going to be their neighbors. And so it's important that they get it right because they're going to have to live with whatever comes out of this. So again, just covering some of what Joe covered, and I'll do it briefly. We do have a private road. This is not going to be dedicated to the county. The county won't be maintaining this road or building this road. I think Daniel did a great job covering the floodplain and remapping that. It was an awesome slide. I was glad he answered all your questions on that, so I didn't have to. But he did a great job addressing that and the crossing. I touched on the preservation area, both from a conservation standpoint as well as aesthetics. And then another thing that Joe, I think, pointed to, but there weren't any questions, is there are some steep slopes on the far south end of the property. We're preserving all those as a result of the results of the soils and geology report that was required with the final plat. So with regard to the rezoning, Joe put up all of the criteria for approval. Again, noting that the property is within the Tri-Lakes area as a key area. Tri-Lakes area is pretty diverse. There's a lot of commercial, there's some industrial, and you continue to see a variety of different housing. This is reflective of that. This adds additional mix. You have some 5-acre, you have some very dense stuff closer to the interstate. But make no mistake, this is pretty close to I-25 in the context of the Tri-Lakes area. Joe also highlighted that it is in an area change, which is minimal change developed. I think in a lot of the maps he showed you, it shows some of this area has been platted. Some of it is kind of remnant old parcels that are still existing. That likely will be platted. With the development pressures that our county is experiencing, you can probably expect that. But this is really kind of an infill project if you look at how the area is already developed.
one of the sentences or portion of a sentence that I wanted to highlight is this area may include isolated pockets of vacant or underutilized land. Some people may not think that this land is underutilized, but as a 5-acre zoned piece of property, that's approximately 30 acres. You could argue that it's currently underutilized with respect to its potential for development. And then lastly, the place type is large lot residential. I think it's important to note that the county's master plan, which was adopted by this entity, not the Board of County Commissioners, identified that 2.5 acre lots would be suitable in this area. It identified that it's important to maintain that rural aesthetic, thus the preservation and conservation areas that we've precluded from development, trying to make sure that it maintains that rural feel. And then, of course, we are proposing single-family detached residential in this area, which is 100% consistent with what you see in the Hay Creek Valley. Joe showed you these. Hopefully those stayed upright with the winds we've been having. But in this picture, they're definitely upright. So the next criteria is with reference to compatibility. It's important to remember that compatibility does not mean the same. It doesn't mean that everything has to be PUD or everything has to be A35 or everything has to be R5. It can mean similar, or that it can work in tandem with an adjacent property. A lot of times we hear comments about, well, this is different than what my property is. That doesn't mean it can't work in tandem. If you have rural residential, which R 2.5 is, the use of that property and the aesthetics of that property are largely going to be the same, whether you're in R5 or R 2.5. By precluding development in certain areas of the property, specifically the floodplain, but also the steep slopes and those preservation areas, we feel like we've really done a good job maintaining that and ensuring that the development's not going to be an eyesore for the rest of the neighbors to have to look at. Again, in terms of compatibility, all of these lots that are starred have less than 5 acres. And it's probably important to note, although this lot that we're proposing is going to be less than 5 acres, this property, if you look at the assessor's website today, it says that it's 30.0, I think, 8 acres. And the reason why the assessor's website says that is because it hasn't caught up to right-of-way that was given to the county for the benefit of everybody associated with Hay Creek Road. So, but for the property giving that right-of-way, we wouldn't even be asking for this R 2.5 zoning, because all of the lots would be 5 acres in size. So the property really did everybody a solid by giving the county the right-of-way that they needed. And so now we're just trying to get the same number of lots that they would have gotten had they not done that. And we feel like that's a fair request, given that they provided some of that land for the county and for the general public. But it is important to note that there are other lots within the Hay Creek Valley that are less than 5 acres in size. So in terms of zoning, I think Joe covered this. We have a PUD immediately adjacent. And as I showed before, several of those lots within that PUD are less than 5 acres. And again, compatibility does not mean the same zoning. I think it generally should mean close to the same use, or one step away from the same use. But in this case, we're talking about the exact same use. And this is just the plat from that PUD showing the lots that are less than 5 acres. So in terms of the compatibility with the existing and permitted land use as well as zone districts in all directions, I just covered that, but it's important to note that both the R 2.5 and the R5 identified that they're intended to accommodate low density rural single family residential development. The key there is rural, and again, we feel like the spacing of these lots and the no build areas really helps accomplish that. I think there's a question about the difference in this, maybe the lot coverage and the setback. Mr. Carlson, I think that was your question. There is a difference, but what I would highlight is the R 2.5 lot. I'm gonna go back to the plat. The R 2.5 lot is burdened by both the floodplain as well as this additional preservation area for what I would estimate 60 to 70% of that lot. So then you factor in the setbacks both from Hay Creek as well as these two property lines, and now you have a much smaller buildable area than what the regulations even require. Does that answer your question,
Yeah.
Mr. Carlson? Okay. The next criteria is whether or not the site is suitable for the intended use. Obviously, we have single family surrounding us. The lots as designed and with the crossing across the creek would allow for single family development. We feel like that's directly compatible with the other land uses, not only adjacent to the property, but throughout the entire Hay Creek Valley. Any questions? Well, Nina did that. That was fancy. Any questions regarding the zoning?
Doesn't look like it. Thanks.
So just quickly going through the final plat, the fire department, there's a lot of questions about fire. I think staff touched on that as well. We did provide an evacuation plan that was sent to Tri-Lakes Monument Fire for review. They had no comments on that evacuation plan. They had no issues with the private road as designed. And they've also approved the source of fire, or excuse me, source of water for fire mitigation or fire suppression. Your county staff has reviewed the fire mitigation plan and has no additional issues on that. So we feel like we've checked all the boxes when it comes to fire and fire suppression, fire mitigation. We kind of went round and round on that because it's a difficult subject nowadays, and there's a lot of attention focused on that, like there should be. The property owner wanted to make sure that whatever he did, whatever they did on this property, that it was safe, not only for the people that are going to be living there, but also for them, right? As I mentioned, they're going to be living within this subdivision. So we went through a lot of iterations working with county staff and with Monument Tri-Lakes Fire, and at the end of it, they recommend approval of all of those documents. I'm not going to go back through general conformance. We cover that with the Tri-Lakes area, the minimal change developed, and the large lot residential areas. I'm not going to read all these. I guess I forgot that when we talk about the purposes of the Land Development Code, there's a whole list in the Land Development Code, Chapter 1. You've all seen these. We feel like we meet all of these in terms of the purposes. This really is not all that different than most of the developments that you see. Next criteria is whether the subdivision is consistent with the subdivision design standards and the approved sketch plan. There is no approved sketch plan for this area. Your county staff has reviewed the final plat and all the supporting documents and have found that it's consistent with the subdivision design standards, except with regard to the waivers, which we'll touch on. Water supply will be provided by individual wells. We do have a recommendation of sufficiency from the county attorney's office. Obviously, that sufficiency finding will have to be made by the Board of County Commissioners. The site will be served by on-site wastewater treatment systems, which are septic systems. That's pretty common in the Hay Creek Valley. We did have a soils and geology study prepared, as I alluded to earlier, by RMG engineers. They do a lot of them in the county. They identified steep slope and, of course, the floodplain. We've resolved those by providing those no-build areas in those areas that they've identified. And that has been reviewed by CGS. And at this point, CGS has no outstanding comments. Preliminary / final drainage report combination. Drainage report was approved by county staff upon review. So talking about access, I think Joe highlighted for the existing home here, that driveway is going to remain. That's been in place for quite a while. An additional access is going to be constructed, and as you discussed with staff, it is going to cross the floodplain. That design has been done. The calculated difference in rise, and I think that was one of the questions from one of the neighbors maybe in some of their comments, is all of 4 inches upstream and less than a centimeter downstream of that bridge. That's the difference in the floodplain. Nothing short of negligible. Legal and physical access, therefore, can be provided from Hay Creek to each of the lots. And I think one of the questions was with regard to this access easement, Mr. Carlson, I think you asked that question as well. I don't know why anybody would build a driveway going north off this cul-de-sac. We anticipate that there'd be a shared driveway coming to this lot, and then direct access can be provided to both of those lots as well. Any questions on that? So I won't go through all these. Again, a lot of wording. But whether or not there's adequate level of compatibility, we believe that there is based on the design, review and re-review by the fire department and by county staff. Somebody, I think Joe brought up that the Air Force Academy provided comments. They did provide pretty substantial comments the first review. They have since provided comments saying that they no longer have any issues with the development. I will remind you, they're not immediately adjacent, but the development will be providing navigation easement across the property at their request. So some might say, why not do a PUD, right? That's what's immediately adjacent. We are actually providing 52% of the site as open space preservation area. That far exceeds what's in the land development code. And I can provide you a comparison if needed. We feel like this is a better result because we can kind of guide where the houses are going to go without the presumption of maybe an amendment to a PUD in the future to create more density. This actually accomplishes exactly what a PUD would hope to accomplish, but about 3 times as much. So we feel like this is a much better outcome for the property than going through the PUD. A lot of times PUD is not the perfect mechanism for laying out a new development, particularly if you're talking about just 6 lots. You know, if you have a couple hundred lots, it probably makes a lot more sense. In this case, going through straight zoning for the R2.5 and just doing a final plat was a lot more suitable process. And I think, you know, that was, we had that discussion with staff. Staff thought that the R2.5 would be a better process than going through PUD, especially recognizing how much land we're conserving as a result of the no-build areas. And to be clear, if somebody came in and wanted to remove a no-build area, I'm not going to speak for staff, but in my opinion, that would have to come back before you and back before the Board of County Commissioners to remove that no-build area. All necessary services can be provided. As I mentioned, Tri-Lakes has reviewed everything submitted with the application. They have no objections. There's, as I mentioned, a ton of open space being provided, frankly, far in excess of probably any other development I've seen in a long time in terms of percentage of the land. We do have private road access. The fire department's looked at that. They've identified that it's suitable for the fire apparatus, including the cul-de-sac and the turning radius associated with that. We have a recommendation of a finding for water sufficiency. We have a commitment letter from Black Hills and from MVA as well. Again, getting back to fire, we do have a mitigation plan that's proposed. That's been reviewed by your staff. They've identified that mitigation plan is appropriate. I will also identify that staff has commented that plan is also going to meet the new IRC standards that will come out in June of 2026. So in some ways, we're kind of ahead of the curve as compared to probably other developments that you might see coming in between now and June. The application was sent to the Forest Service for review. They have no objection and have not provided any additional comments. Any questions on, I guess, either the rezoning or the plat?
Fuller?
With regard to the waiver, and this is probably county engineering, does county engineering support that waiver?
I guess I'd have to defer. I don't want to speak for them. Inevitably, I'll have it wrong.
Daniel Torres again. Just a clarification, the waivers are from the land development code, so that would be more of a planning item.
Wrong guy.
Deviation.
Sorry. Dang it.
Deviations are for engineering.
Yeah, but are you in favor?
And a deviation was approved in terms of the private road characteristics. The private road waiver they requested does include certain allowances, a few bullet points that they have, that they're allowed to deviate from a standard road cross section.
So the county doesn't
within
have an
the
issue
waiver.
with that?
No.
Okay, thank you.
And Mrs. Fuller, that's a great question. If the waiver isn't approved, it wouldn't allow for this configuration of the lots as you see here. Basically, what would be required is every lot would have to have frontage onto Hay Creek. And so you, instead of having one crossing, you might have 5 or 6 crossings going across the floodplain. Obviously, that's not ideal. It's better to minimize that impact. That is the root of all this.
Because I'm reading private roads versus, and that's the discussion. It's not necessarily a public road. So would that be the difference? It would have to be a public road that would access these lots versus a private. Is that really what the waiver is saying?
It allows for the private road, for it to be constructed as a private road. The landowner wanted to do a private road because the cross-section is much narrower, less impact to the land, less impact to the floodplain. But if we didn't do this, you'd have to have 30 feet for each lot going up and touching Hay Creek, unless the road was built to a county standard. I think to your question. If they didn't build the road, let's say the road wasn't as proposed, and we did all driveways from Hay Creek, you'd have 5 driveways crossing the creek.
But you could do a public road that would traverse
Absolutely.
all these. And I get it. It's like, it's 5 lots. So it's, is a public road necessary? These are, just economic questions as well as like good public policy. So I just want to be clear. It's disturbing less. It costs less to develop it. You're already going across a floodplain, which will be expensive. And then if it were built to county standards, would that make it that much better? And I think that's a fair question. And I just wanted to see if the county finds that acceptable, or is that one of those like coin toss that you're asking us to decide if we also think it's okay?
Hi, Joe Letke, planner. So Ms. Fuller, the waiver in my review has met the criteria. However, that final decision-making is for the board.
Thank you.
Good question. I think the policy's kind of swung back and forth about private roads. The more of these types of roads that you dedicate to the county, the more the county has to maintain. So it seems like it's changed over the years for sure. Any questions? Any additional questions? No, I'm officially done now.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, I have a couple of questions, Mr. Dossi.
Sorry.
Can you back up to the right-of-way comment that you said the parcel would have hit the 30 acres if they hadn't dedicated the 10 feet of right-of-way?
Mm-hmm.
And then on the plat, you're showing an additional 15-foot right-of-way preservation. So if the 15 feet becomes dedicated, these lots reduce further, correct?
The county would have to come in and either negotiate for that or condemn it because it's not dedicated to the plat.
Right.
Yeah,
So why is it shown as preserved on the plat?
that was at the request of staff.
Okay. And then I guess my second question really focuses on Lot 2, which is the real application, right? To rezone to RR 2.5. What is the justification for not just creating the additional 4 lots and having them just be a little larger?
Well, I think the justification is this property would be 30 acres, but for the property owner giving that additional acreage to the county.
Granted,
Frankly, out of the goodness of their heart, they gave land to the county, and now because of that, they're having to go through a rezoning, which they wouldn't have to do.
But they did that of their own accord.
100%. 100%.
So now you're stuck with something that's less than 30 acres and coming in and asking for some relief. The other piece of Lot 2 that I find a little curious is having the private road bisect the lot really creates a situation where the lot feels even smaller. Now, granted, it's a private road, but now that 2.5 is even reduced more from a general feel and compatibility. And the question around that is the 2.5s that you showed on one of the earlier slides. Do any of those have private roads? They weren't 2.5, I'm sorry, they're less than 5.
Yeah, I would have to defer to the county on whether or not those are private or public. I don't know the answer to that, Mr. Byers.
And so the thinking there is, do they have a similar situation where it feels like the lot is now smaller than it actually is?
Yeah, I think, and you know, the feeling of something on paper versus what you end up seeing when things get built probably is going to be very different, right? Because you have a ton of space that's being conserved along not only the floodplain itself, but along the floodplain, as well as the steep slope areas. It does look constrained on the plat, although still pretty good size buildable area compared to, you know, most of the subdivisions we see.
Well, we could debate that, but I don't know that we need to. So those are my comments initially. Is I'm just curious about, you know, how that's a true justification when you've given up the land and now you're asking for a reduction.
Yeah, and I don't think it's. I think you use the word relief. I don't think zoning should ever be used as relief. I think it's compatible as proposed, especially noting that it's not 2.5 acres. It's well over 3 acres. And the amount of land being conserved really allows this to the casual observer, everything in there is going to look like it's on 5 acres. I don't think anybody can tell the difference between what's 4 acres or 5.2 acres. It generally is going to look the same. And as the houses are built and they're pushed out to those areas outside of those conservation areas, I think 100% you're going to see that be the reality in that area of the valley.
Any other questions? Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody need a short break? We're going to take a little break before the public testimony. I want to do it quickly so we can get back at 10 after. I'd like to do that. All right. Adjourn for break. We're going to call our meeting back to order. Keep moving on. The applicant wanted to talk to us, express one more idea. So go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Byers, you asked a question about whether some of the other roads in the area are via easement as opposed to dedicated to the county, and whether or not they bisect any of the lots that are in the area. If you look at, let me get over here. Look at the lot configuration here in this PUD. Again, this is a site immediately adjacent. That road quite literally bisects those lots almost in half on the adjacent subdivision. A little harder to see with the line work on the plat, but you can see that road coming through here. These are the lot lines. So that private road cuts right through the middle of those other lots. So it's, I don't know if all the roads in the area are like that, but the one that's immediately adjacent that we're using as compatibility analysis certainly has that.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing this up because I think that clarifies quite a bit. Thank you.
Any other questions on that?
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, now we're going to move into the public comment section of the meeting. We've got a few folks that want to comment. So each person will be given 3 minutes to comment. Yeah, we'd like you to, if you'd come up and sign your name and tell us who you are. The best use of your time is to talk to us about the approval criteria versus any other items that I know there's some emotional things that get involved, but that's the best way to inform us about what you want. This is not a question and answer period, so we don't answer questions, but you get to come up and tell us how you feel and about the project. So we'll move ahead. Is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor of this item? Yes, sir. Okay. All right. Again, anyone in favor? Seeing none. Anyone not in favor of this item? Like to speak against it? All right. I'll let you guys decide who comes up, but come on up and give us a sign in and give us your name, please. Yeah. Can we put up the review criteria? And then in an effort to not spend too much time repeating what others have said already, once you get up here, we don't need to hear it a second time. So just if you can keep your comments to things we haven't heard yet, we'd appreciate that.
Okay.
Thanks.
Great. Good morning. Good morning, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Harmon Zuckerman. I'm a lawyer in Boulder, Colorado, and I wanted to appreciate your commitment to being on the board. I do the same. I'm a former planning board member for the city, and I'm currently the chair of the Open Space Board of Trustees in Boulder, so thanks for your service. I represent Ed and Renee Baer, who are El Paso County residents and who oppose the Hidden Creek Estates rezoning and subdivision plat applications. As the rezoning, we disagree with the finding that the proposed zone district is compatible with surrounding zone districts. It's one of your criteria. In fact, the surrounding zoning is all RR5, A35, and PUDs with densities above 5 acres, at or above 5 acres per dwelling unit. An RR 2.5 lot would be the only such lot in the entire zoning map area, and this is spot zoning. Spot zoning is prohibited in Colorado on the theory that a local government cannot act merely to benefit a single landowner, but must act to benefit the general public. There's nothing in the application materials or the staff report showing that any public benefit would be gained from the proposed rezoning. The applicant's argument that he had to dedicate right-of-way falls flat. Dedication would be a requirement for any subdivision application. We ask you to recommend denial of this request for impermissible spot zoning, which is only being requested for private benefit. If you recommend denial of the rezoning, then there's no way to recommend approval of the subdivision plat because the plat would have to be redesigned to include 5 lots. I heard commissioners voice concern with adding more lots on a dead-end road. The Air Force Academy cautioned against the same thing. This issue has been adjudicated recently in Cloutier versus BOCC. In that case, the court held its nose and ruled in favor of the county only because of the letter of the code. which was clear. Only lots that both take access and front on the dead-end road count against the 25-lot limit. The court held its nose because no matter the letter of the code, not counting lots that take access from a dead-end road but don't front on it is embracing a distinction without a difference. Everyone would have to evacuate on the same road. The fire doesn't care who fronts on it and who takes access from it. The court saw this and acknowledged the plaintiff's arguments about the code, also requiring the protection of public safety. Acknowledging these arguments was the court's way of inviting the board to change the law. And here, you and the commissioners are updating the code. You might want to revise 8.4.4 if you think it's nonsensical to allow an infinite number of houses to be served by a dead-end road, provided no more than 25 actually have frontage on it. But right now, and here's the important thing, you are not, like the court, strictly being asked to observe the letter of the code. Your recommendation hinges on approval criteria, which include whether the proposed subdivision is in conformance with the goals, objectives, and policies of the master plan. If you find that the proposed project does not meet the wildfire and public safety goals of the master plan, you have the authority to recommend denial of this subdivision. This is a project that proposes no mitigation for its offsite impacts related to flood while acknowledging a rise in the base flood elevation. Can I?
Yeah.
15 seconds. It requires a private road waiver to avoid engineering a floodplain crossing that is safe and durable enough to meet public road standards. You're only supposed to grant a waiver for relief from a non-economic hardship. And here, it seems that the waiver is being sought only to save money and avoid construction of a safer road meeting public standards. Without the rezoning and with proper mitigation of hazards, my client would not be so against this project. But as proposed, this project is increasing hazard without providing public benefits. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you again for taking your time, and you as well, staff. And, you know, I think I was going to read something, but I don't want to duplicate what may already have been said. But sorry.
Sign in,
It's
please,
Ed
too.
Bear, B-E-H-R.
And make sure and sign in too.
Yes. And I live adjacent, you know, to this new development. I'm actually the first lot downstream of it, you know, as well. So I would just like to, and does my time officially start now? Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. I would just like to comment on a couple of things that were stated. I mean, I think in terms of the, you know, the flood impact, we don't know that fully yet. And while numbers are thrown out in terms of inches or foot, I would say tell that to the people of Camp Mystic. You know, we have seen extreme weather events that what used to be reasonable in terms of mitigation doesn't seem to appear to be that way, you know, now. Also, I would state that in our development, yes, there are some small lots, but as that entire development was subdivided, the average is still 5 lots. And I think that's a key distinction. And I will say that the developer that's proposing this development also is the one that did my development that I live in. And it was originally tried to do a 2.5 acre, you know, subdivision. And thankfully, all of the neighbors at that time, before I even owned in there, came forward and said they didn't want to change the density of the area on a whole. And so it was pulled back and had to be an average of 5 acres, you know, as well. And as the person from Vertex mentioned, the other adjoining lots are developments that are higher density. What he failed to mention in that is they all have additional exits. You know, it's not a one-way in. I think, like as we talk about the paper and the plat, right? All we can see are guidelines that are written with all good intention, but it doesn't apply to every area. And I think what makes our neighborhood very unique, which was again highlighted in the court case, you know, that Mr. Zuckerman talked about, was it's a box canyon. There's one way in and there's one way out. It's not your typical development, you know, in that way from a fire mitigation. And with, you know, codes being updated in terms of fire mitigation and such, you know, our feeling is why not wait to see if some of those standards change? We're not talking about a long period of time. A lot of those standards are built on what we know today. But as we all know, we have seen fire events that, have surprised all of us, in terms of what happened up in the Boulder area and what happened in Colorado Springs, as well. So I think it would be prudent to see what these codes may require that aren't going to be required as of today, as we've learned more. And lastly, my neighborhood does have a bridge, that was built. And that was, I think, 18 to 20 years ago when that development was first done. We've lived there 18 years. So I'm not sure why we're going backwards in that way. I mean, we have a good structured bridge with a lot of water flow can come underneath it. I don't know all the particulars of it, but, could find that out in terms of the exact density. And I think that's it.
Great.
As
Thank
my
you.
time is up. Thank you.
Sure.
Done that. Can you hear me? Hi, my name is Lisa Mullins, and I live off of Tapadero Drive. One lot changes everything. So Hidden Creek Development, it started off, they knew full well that they were 5 acres and above lots. And then after all their careful planning, we have a 3.5 acre lot. What do? Do we make some lots bigger? Do we do some more open space, dog park? What? Nope, has to be a lot. Let's rezone. But it's not just a lot. It's a precedent for the future of this valley. If that lot is approved, it changes everything, including possibly their own development and any future developments, possibly even further up the valley on the property that Mr. Dunstan owns and does hope to rezone and develop in the future, and actually the not so distant future. So I urge you to consider that one lot can be anything, but it also can change everything. So please consider that, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any others that would like to speak? Sorry?
Good morning. My name is Richard Smith. I live at 4210 Green Mountain Drive in the Green Mountain Estates, just up the road from Hidden Creek. I might be a little repetitive here, but I feel like it's an attempt to help make a point. So let me start. I object to the rezoning on account that it appears to be strictly to fit in an extra lot on a plot that is simply too small. You can't divide less than 30 by 5 by 6 and get 5. I see it as the camel's nose under the tent to set a precedent for the rest of the valley. This in turn leads to the probability of even denser development. It has already been pointed out that we have a single ingress-egress route for the valley, and that is very unlikely to change simply due to geology and geography. We're already aware that Hay Creek Road is the only way in and out for Hidden Creek, as well as for all of the surrounding neighbors. What you may or may not remember is that there is already approximately 80 lots developed and occupied. That's a lot over the 25. The road is already being tasked far above that limit. It seems reasonable to me that when the LDC was developed, in particular 8.4.4, part of the purpose was to ensure reasonable and safe egress in event of a fire or other emergency event. Drawing this out, it simply does not make sense that lots, households that, quote, don't count because they don't have a driveway that hits Hay Creek Road. everybody on all of those lots and households still uses that same road for egress in an emergency event. I don't know what to say other than it just doesn't make sense to me to start to bring in more development in a place where it might be challenging to get people out of already. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hi,
Hello.
my name is Trish Burns. I also live on Tapadero Drive, which is 2 developments west of the Hidden Creek proposed development. I moved there following the Black Forest fire where I lost my home. And within 1 year of that time, I still hadn't completed all the insurance paperwork listing every single item on my home to satisfy my claim for my lost home. So I receive a call from my 12-year-old son in the home with the dogs telling me just west of us on the mountainside, there's fire. And he's, of course, very frightened. I literally leave my cart at the grocery store and head home. And what I find is I'm not the first one there. As a matter of fact, these 1-lane, narrow country roads that wind, that go off to ditches, and then barbed wire fencing on both sides. It's country. It's tiny. It's literally lined with people. There's multiple TV stations with their crews. There's looky-loos galore. It's 3.5 miles in to get to my home, which borders Pike National Forest and the Air Force Academy's northwest corner. I have to go, and I'm not even the furthest. There's other roads. There's 92 households on our roster. And we pour all into Hay Creek Road. It took me 25 minutes to get to my son and kids in the fire. And there were fire trucks behind me. So already it's a circus. There's so much work that has to be done if you're going to continue to increase all these streams of people that come into this main river of Hay Creek to egress when there's fire. The other issue, just like we have high winds right now, I chat GBT'd, last night I watched my shuttleboard, outdoor shuttleboard, it's 70 pounds, fly up into the air, out into the road. I was like, holy cow. Chat GBT said we had 97-mile-an-hour gusts. So it's all a weather vortex where the cold, dry air is coming down, rushing off of the mountains. I'm at 7,200 feet altitude, and it meets the warmer, wetter air, and it creates an absolute weather vortex. This is wild. So implant a fire into this area where you continue to approve more density, where all of us are going to be absolutely trapped. You have a huge responsibility here, and we're going to hold you to it because we're relying on you to keep us safe so we can get out.
Thank you. Would you sign in, please, before you leave? Thank you.
Oh, one other question. I couldn't see the screens in the presentation. Where can I get a copy of these PowerPoint presentations with all the details so I could learn more? Who could provide that?
Justin, they'll help you.
And the
afterwards.
gentleman representing Vertex misquoted. The applicant doesn't live in this development at this time. He has a plan to possibly, but he doesn't live there at this time. He lives on Hay Creek.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Yeah, come on up.
Good morning, I'm Renee Bear. Hay Creek, Green Mountain Ranch Estates home resides in a box canyon. served by a single access dead-end road. There are currently 92 on our roster, relying on Hay Creek Road as a sole means of ingress and egress. And an additional 20 homes have been approved and are in the process of being developed. That would increase the properties to 112 homes, which is more than 4.5 times the intended county limit for development on a dead end or cul-de-sac road, an exceedance of about 350%. This condition presents a serious wildfire evacuation and public safety concern. The valley is geographically constrained and bounded by the Air Force Academy to the south and a conservation easement to the north, making the creation of a secondary access route impractical. Hay Creek functions as the only evacuation corridor for residents, emergency responders, and evacuation traffic. A district court judge has acknowledged that challenges to additional development in this area based on county safety access codes are legitimate and deserve review, where access is limited to a single road. However, current code language referencing frontage rather than roadway feed has allowed additional approvals to move forward despite the cumulative impact on safety. Given the valley's wildfire history, its proximity major fire events, and the upcoming state wildlife resilience code taking effect July 1st, 2026, continued development without addressing access limitations fails to align with evolving safety standards. I respectfully request that the Planning Commission pause further development approvals along Hay Creek Road and recommend a formal review and clarification of county regulations governing dead-end road access, especially on a box canyon, with particular attention to wildfire evacuation capacity and public safety. This request is not opposing development, but about ensuring that growth does not exceed safe carrying capacity of infrastructure and access availability. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thanks very much. Anyone else like to speak? Yes, sir. Come on up. Whoever's first.
I actually am a homeowner on one of the roads that got shown up there off the mountain.
Sign in if you would. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I can sign in here. Sign in over there too. One's the what? Oh, okay. Yes. So thank you for your time today, and I appreciate you allowing me to speak. I'm going to really try to address your comment about not repeating and also going to code. First up, I know nothing about code and rezoning. I went on a website, tried to learn as much as I can before this meeting. That's a lot for the common man to try to figure out. There's a lot of ins and outs, so I'll let the experts do that. But I do know, just from my own experiences in the working force here in Colorado Springs for over 35 years, metrics matter, words matter, and what we're trying to do. And people can take words and even zoning or gap rules, my experiences with gap rules, and show data that's controversial. 1 minute you're good in gap, the next minute you're not good in gap. And we all remember MCI that was here. I worked for MCI, and I looked at their glossy brochure and I thought they were fine, and they were not. Going back to this topic real quickly, why do we need to rezone? I'm really kind of questioning that. If they want 5 acres, they can certainly make 5 acres. So I am a proponent to move away from this 2.5. Again, just looking at my notes here real quickly. I heard words in responses: expect, anticipate, or it forces. Who's going to be doing the enforcement? Because those words are only hope and not part of a successful implementation plan to execute. Besides fire that's been mentioned, I do worry about water, road maintenance, noise, and light pollution. I moved to this area to, find a less congested area, enjoy natural Colorado beauty and family traditions. I ask each of you to carefully consider and ensure the appropriate subject matter experts, such as our monument fire, answer specific questions and concerns that you have, and look at this plan in a holistic view versus secondary interpretations or people's summaries of what they think it means. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
I'm Don Hunsuck. I am a resident at the corner of Hay Creek and Tapadero. I'm wearing the jacket because I'm also the only Air Force Academy graduate in here, I think.
Thank you for
I'm
your
Lieutenant
service.
Colonel Air Force retired. I'm Southwest Airlines retired. I'm still flying jets. It's been wonderful. The previous education has been wonderful, both from the board, the presenters, the legal, the applicant, and the people that dissent as I do. I'm just going to make a few points, and then I'm going to propose some solutions if I could. The biggest thing I'm hearing is fire and a secondary escape, if possible, and I'll make that at the end. When I was a cadet here, flying gliders, just a beautiful area. When I came back with my son and his future wife were cadets in the class of 14, beautiful area. Bought a house here, and they rezoned the land behind my house and took away my view. And so I had to resell, et cetera. But rezoning upsets people. As you can see back here, people are upset. Now, there are reasons for rezoning. I understand taxes, I understand profit. But my first solution is if they take lots 2 and 3 and make it one big lot at 8.5 acres, you're not having a zoning problem. You have one big lot. And from what I understand, you can have additional dwelling units. You could have a place for your kids or grandkids on that northern 2 and 3 acres. You can still have the taxes for 8.5 acres. Second thing, and this is a thought, we mentioned the Air Force Academy. They probably need a fire break road along the northern boundary of the Air Force Academy, and it would provide a secondary escape or at least a secondary access for the fire department, either the academy or the county, to get up there and provide some spot relief. And also perhaps help the people at the northern end or the far western side closest to the mountains to be able to get out there quick if it was on government property and the academy boundary lines on the south side saying, hey, don't go past this barbed wire, but you can use that road as an escape route. So my thought there. Finally, and I'll just put it this way, Proverbs 22:28 says, do not move an ancient boundary that your fathers have set. Rezoning upsets people. I understand taxes. I understand industry. I understand capitalism. But if you stick with the laws that exist, the restrictions that exist, and just change lots 2 and 3 to 8.54, you don't have to deal with a lot of that. People would still be happy, and you're not upsetting the forefathers, I guess. Thank you for your time. Been educational.
Thank you very much. Anyone else here to speak against? Come on up.
Good morning. My name is Janelle Timmons, and my husband and I live directly adjacent to the applicant's property. We're on the west side, so we're not on the east side or in any of the subdivisions. And I just have 2 points, and I think you probably will find them repetitive, as most of us have been, because the concern is real, and the concern is consistent throughout the neighborhood, and that is, number one, egress. And I think not only of egress, but ingress as well, because we were living on our property, and if all of you recall, first of all, the Hayman fire, but then secondly, the Black Forest fire, when we were asked to voluntarily evacuate. We have never been evacuated, for sure. We were both working at that time, and they came to us and they said, let us make clear to you, if you leave your home, and we evacuate this valley, you will not be able to reenter. We don't care if your dogs are there. We don't care what is in that home. You are not reentering. So it's not just egress, it's ingress as well. And so you have all of us in this seemingly rural area, which I hope it is, people with livestock, that they have to get into trailers, panicked livestock, trying to get them onto one small road with no shoulders, as well as ingress for wildland fire, for those of us who really would like to get our children or our dogs out of our home. But think of it, it's a real concern. And as it's been said, one lot seems like nothing, and that leads me to the RR 2.5 zoning. These are RR5 lots. You can do this. It's unnecessary. There doesn't appear to be any compelling reason other than the need to create an additional lot and additional profit. And I respect capitalism. That's great. That's what we live in. But sooner or later, as you continue to do this, the exceptions begin to swallow the rule. The rule is 5-acre lots. People that buy there know that. People that buy there depend on that. And when you continue to do that, if you do, then it becomes crazy because they have created the conditions to permit that to happen again and again and again. It's just one thing. And so I want to reiterate, because I really liked it, what the woman from the Air Force Academy wrote when she wrote to you. And she said, regarding wildfire risk and fire response, smaller developments should not be evaluated in isolation, but rather assessed cumulatively with other developments that are planned, under construction, or existing. And we have the 20 acres behind us. There are at least two large parcels in that valley that can be developed in the future. So please don't think of this, as it's been said, as one lot, because it means a lot. I thought I did there, to this neighborhood. And take that into account and deny that rezoning. It's small, but it's one more thing. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you. My name is Mark Bennett. I live about a mile west up the valley, and I'm going to be everyone's neighbor. Goodwill. I would encourage the developer to develop goodwill with the fellow residents of Hay Creek. Do not ask for exceptional treatment just to make one additional sale. You're successful. Keep being successful. Follow the zoning and move on to another successful development. Act like you're going to be our neighbors. Let's keep goodwill. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak?
Yeah, my name is Gerard Timmons, spouse to the elegant speaker. But we lived adjacent to the property too. And I don't even understand why we're having this problem with the 2.5 acres. It would seem to me on that 2.5 acres, if you extend it 1.5 acres to the north, then everything meets codes and there's no problem. It does go down to 5 lots, but there's adequate space. Number 2, on that map, and my computer doesn't show it very well, but it shows non-build or no build areas. And lot 2 is totally no build. And yet they're talking about putting a house there. That makes absolutely no sense. Number 3, that access road, gravel, with dirt, I assume it's going to be gravel, but there is no good crossing across that creek. We have lived there when that creek has almost come out of the banks behind our house. And there's probably a 10 to 12 foot drop to the creek, to the bank level. So that's going to spread out a long ways. So if that access road is gravel, it's going to wash out. Secondly, if it washes out, there's a fire, those people are not going to get across that road. That creek is, well, you probably haven't seen it, but it's full of dead brush all the way down. So that fire is going to follow that brush all the way down and take out that crossing of the creek. I also, as Trish said, I was there when that fire up on the mountain hit. And I got back into the valley. They told me not to. We had dogs and animals there. By the time I got to our house, the smoke was so bad on our deck that I couldn't hardly see. And we've been in pre-evacuation twice. So there is no access. And I don't see where this helps a lot. This could be very easily solved. Everything could turn into 5-acre lots or larger. There'd be one large and the remaining 5-acre lots, and the way it is. I don't understand why you develop this. Like I say, it's lot number 2. It says no build. What does no build mean? You're going to put a home there? I don't know. I think this needs to be thought through. It's all the development out there, and there's a lot of development going on, and I don't preclude anybody from developing their property. I have no problem with those 5-acre lots, but I do have a real problem with a 2.5-acre lot, or 3.5, I'm sorry, if I say.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment timeframe. Discussion. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, the rebuttal.
Thank you, Mr. Trowbridge. First off, just want to start by thanking all the homeowners, residents that came and participated. It's always great to have conversation in front of you all and in front of the Board of County Commissioners to hear people's thoughts. I think you heard a lot of the same concerns that you've seen in other developments in Hay Creek, and that's not to disparage those concerns. I think we've seen a lot in this county with regard to fire and in some cases evacuation. What I would reiterate for you is with respect to those particular items, not only has Tri-Lakes Monument Fire come to terms with this development and has no issues with anything we've submitted, but so has your El Paso County staff with regard to the access road, the ability to provide fire suppression, water supply. There are no outstanding issues whatsoever on those items. I'm going to try to just cover all the comments that I can. I didn't get everybody's name. A couple folks weren't into the microphone enough, so I'll do the best I can. Miss Mullen, who's on Tapadero, I think one of the comments that she brought up was that this could somehow set a precedent. And I think your county attorney's office will tell you, as well as staff, that in land use and in zoning, there is no such thing as precedent. Every application stands on its own. I would suggest to you that anything further away from the existing PUD that's already in the valley and adjacent to this property wouldn't have that same compatibility argument if they're not adjacent to something that's less than 5 acres. That's exactly what we have immediately to the east. So in terms of precedent, I think that's going to be very difficult to prove for any development moving forward. The gentleman that got
Ms. Jackson.
Can you put up the slide with the surrounding developments, it's pink, that shows the acreage around this development?
Would be happy to. Probably the best one is here. Yeah. So, and again, this one shows the starred properties are the ones that are less than 5.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I did not get the gentleman's name. I apologize. Who talked about the need to install a fire break along the north end of the Air Force Academy. This property does not back up to the Air Force Academy. I think that conversation has been had at the Academy
generally speaking, they don't want people driving on the Air Force Academy. It'd be great if that could happen, and maybe in the future that does happen. Understand the concerns with fire mitigation. I don't know, and I don't even want to begin to guess how many of the people that spoke have mitigated their properties in terms of the vegetation on their properties, but that's exactly what's going to happen here. So this property owner will be doing his part in terms of mitigating the potential for the spread of wildfire in the valley. I would strongly recommend that anybody that lives in a vegetated area do just that, as we've seen in the past in this county. The same gentleman stated that we should just stick with the laws and the requirements. I want to reiterate for you that it is your El Paso County Master Plan that says 2.5 acre lots are appropriate in this area. That was adopted by this board. Many of you were on the Planning Commission that adopted that provision of the master plan. I completely sympathize with it being uncomfortable for people that this is shown as R 2.5. This is not a 2.5 acre lot. But for the provision of that right of way to the county, this would be a 5 acre lot. It would be 100% in compliance with what they desire. That was something that this property owner did, frankly, for the benefit of everybody that lives in the valley. There was a comment about lot 2 being, I think, 100% no build, and that's just not correct. If you look at lot 2, this is your floodplain area. This is that additional preservation, conservation area. And where there is no crosshatching, that is your buildable area. So that's just that comment. And I get that there's a lot going on this exhibit, but that is your buildable area on this lot.
Mr. Chair, how big is that space that is outside of the no build?
I'm going to turn to the expert, which is Nina, and see
Right.
if she knows. Yeah, probably an acre. I mean, you're going to get a home in there real easy. I mean, a 5,000 square foot home will easily fit in that space. And we could scale it if you'd like to take a break and do that. We're happy to do it. The same gentleman stated that the crossing will wash out. You've had both your engineering staff, the applicant's engineer, as well as the floodplain administrator who works for FEMA, review the design of that crossing and is telling you that those flood waters at its highest point will pass under that box culvert. Somebody said that this should be a bridge. It doesn't have to be a bridge because of the flow that's going through in that location. Again, that has been reviewed by your engineering staff. They concur with our engineer that can be a box culvert and that design does work in this crossing. So I think, Mr. Byers, you said we're here today to talk about the R 2.5, right? Again, your master plan says that's what should go in here, right? That was adopted by this board. Does that mean it should go up and down the valley? Probably not. But should it go next to other areas that are already less than 5 acres? Absolutely it should. That is where compatibility comes in. But for giving up the right of way again, we would have exactly that. It would be 5 and change on each lot. That's not the best layout for this property. Again, you'd have multiple crossings. Without those waivers, that's the result. And I can tell you that would be a much less attractive development than having one crossing at the narrowest point of this floodplain. Unless there's any questions for me, I would like to bring Mr. Hull up to speak. He's had a lot of conversations with neighbors. I don't want it to seem like those conversations have not been had, because they have. And to verify, in fact, that he does live in Lot 1. I know that myself because he met me holding a cup of coffee in his driveway when we met on the site, but I would like for him to speak to that as well.
Yeah, Mr. Trubich.
Mr. Dawsey, before you go, could you bring back the chart that has all the other lots that you had starred that are
the map
under 5?
Yep.
Yeah. So the lots to the east, all of those are within a PUD, and are all of those at least 4 acres?
No, one of them's 3 something. Right here.
Okay, so that's 3.4. Okay. And then to the west, do you know what the lot sizes are for the ones you start to the west?
I believe those are considerably bigger. So those could be developed per the R5 zoning. We could poke those in the assessors, and I could tell you what size those are.
Well, I just thought you would start them because they were less than
I'm
5
sorry.
acres.
You're talking about these.
Yeah.
I don't have the exact acreage, but we can pull those and I can let you know. Obviously, this one's going to be substantially smaller.
Right. That's what I was trying to get at, is what are the sizes of the,
We can pull that for you if you'd
that
like
would,
that
that would be
information.
nice. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions for me before I have Mr. Hull come up and speak to you?
Doesn't look like it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you all.
My name is James Hall, and my wife and I, we own the property. I want to thank you all for your time initially, and thank our folks that we know well, all of our neighbors. We do live in our home. I didn't bring my utility bill to show that, but Ed will vouch. And we plan to be there for a long time. I think that is important. We're the ones that are most affected by it. I like space. I'm more used to 1,000 acres than otherwise. We've been very careful with the property. We've done a lot with it, I believe. We've taken it from gravel to a good property. And that's our spirit through the whole thing. I was given the State of Colorado Conservationist of the Year 2 years ago, Douglas County 3 years ago. Because that's in our wheelhouse. That's what we do. And we love space. At the back of our house, we've got big windows, and we'll be looking out on whatever's there. We don't plan. We can't say that we're going to do this. We don't plan on having anybody there for a lengthy time. It's a future type deal for us, unless other things come along. Ultimately, I know that it doesn't really make any difference. But we have lived in the valley for a quarter of a century, which is really sounds good, but it's really just 25 years. And so we do count these folks as friends, and we're going to continue to do so. What transpires, the chips will fall where they are, and we'll be appreciative for whatever that is. So we did, I think, a couple of comments that might be somewhat helpful. I'm not sure why I've necessarily been called a developer. I've never made a run set doing that, but we did have 20 of us, first time I think it ever happened, at least the bank said so, on Ed and Renee's property and also Sean and Kristen's property. There were 10 family members, and both members of the husbands and wives signed it. And so we had 20 people on the bank loan, and we were able to do it. And we have thoroughly enjoyed being out there. It's been a privilege for us, and we're thankful that Kirsten and Ed and Renee as well have had that opportunity to move in the meantime. And I did want to say that there's no maliciousness in any way on our part. We're not trying to do anything against those. Sorry. So we want to, in anything that we do, we try to seek counsel on it, and we do it to the best of our ability. It's the same in this case, I believe. I don't want to get on that side of it necessarily, but for sake of perspective, we did do that property next door with all 20 of us. It was not me that did it. And we went in 2.5. Ed brought that up because we're coming from in town. We thought 2.5 is huge, and to most people it is. And so we did try that. It didn't work out. We're thankful, just like Ed said, just like they are, that it's 5s today. We really are. We're grateful for that. But we did go through it. It is not a 5-acre average development because the county, again, requested that we give right of way on that. So really the average is not 5 acres. It's less than that on the next development. I appreciated Mr. Byers' comment that, yes, you give property to the county, but that's not the whole story, is it? I mean, when you do something, the county requires it. They request it, and it's much more than a request. It's this or that. And so certainly you're willing to do it, but you don't want to lose that property in the first place. Across the street is Kathy. The previous person that owned this property would oftentimes go across Hay Creek Road and point out where his property boundaries were. because he wanted them to know that everybody's driving across his property to get in and out. But that property was given. And what has historically happened, I wouldn't say it's legal precedent, but from what I've learned, you all would know better than I would. But generally and this is the way the surveyors say it, they put take, generally when the county now, that are under 4 acres, that are under, I don't know the exact number. Years ago, we looked it up when we looked at the other property we did. But the average is there. And so we see this, neighbors, as a 5-acre average. And I think we can make that decision. I don't know why, because we did request it. I don't know why they allowed them to all be in a 5-acre zoning and yet have less than 5 acres. But they didn't allow us to do that. That's what we requested. But their answer for no, you need to do every single lot 5 acres and then do the other one as a 2.5 zoning. And so we obviously had to do that. But that I still look at it, and I want you to know that as a 5-acre average, and I believe that is a true absolute statement on that. So the absolute overall density is a 5-acre to my thinking, and I think that's provable historically anyway. We did also just want to say that from here on, and we have from the beginning, we had people down to our home, somewhere in our home then. This has been maybe 6-8 months ago. But I will say more importantly that we invite anyone that would like to. We'll certainly take you out for coffee. It's been helpful today to see what your thoughts are on it. We want to do things right, and we desire always to have a good and a peaceful relationship with our neighbors. So if you're willing to come and sit down with a good and peaceful relationship, that's good. I think we're on that standing with everyone, unless they're making something up. But we'd be happy to take you to coffee and continue.
It's a presentation.
I'm sorry. I don't know what I'm doing. So
Yeah.
anyway, if you all have any questions, I am happy to answer them along those lines. If you want to, I could state some things like it's very fascinating that we have individuals interested in profit. I will say directly, this is aside from it, that we have another reason for having 6 lots, and it's not profit. And profit is not a criteria. So I'm not sure where we're getting off on that road. But anyway, any other questions that you all have
Questions?
at all?
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all.
Did you have something else?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I failed to address the attorney's comments about spot zoning. I apologize. I had that on a previous sheet. It's easy to just throw the word spot zoning out there. But if you don't have knowledge of what a spot zoning historically is, as seen by our courts, specifically the Colorado Supreme Court, this is not a spot zoning. A spot zoning is when you rezone something to an adverse use in an area that is otherwise a totally different use category. So for instance, if we were rezoning this to commercial in order to develop a commercial use, that would be a spot zoning. The courts have also said that typically a spot zoning would run afoul of the comprehensive plan, or in this case, the county's master plan. That's not true at all here either, because the county's master plan allows for 2.5-acre lots in this area, in this place type. So it's easy to throw that out there, but you'll notice that there was nothing that backed that up after that was thrown out there. And there's a reason for that, because this is not a spot zoning. Now, of course, only a court will decide that if that's the case, but I can tell you that case law is not on that attorney's side based on my understanding of what a spot zoning is.
Excuse me, Ms. Jack.
Mr. Darcy, one of the other things that the attorney mentioned was that we were, in doing this, we're changing code along the way. Can you explain that to me, or maybe staff needs to? I don't know. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I'm not sure I know what it means either. The Land Development Code supports this rezoning. There is compatibility there.
I believe that what he may have been referring to is we are in the midst of a land development code update. I believe that what may have been what he was referring to.
Thank you.
Unless there's any questions on that. Mr. Trowbridge, you asked the question about these lot sizes. My awesome research person back here was able to come up with all of them right away. Working from west to east, we're at 4.82, 4.95, 4.94, 4.98. And this is less than 1 acre. This is currently one parcel, but it won't be because this is county right of way going through here. So you can think of this as a 1 acre lot, and this is a 3 point, whatever the remaining portion is. I will also note that the land development code, excuse me, sir. I will also note that the land development code allows for 4.75 acre lots when it's adjacent to section line road. That's not the case here. This is not a section line road. I'm not going to try to make you think that. But what the land development code in doing that has said is 4.75 when right of way is given up is an adequate size, meaning that density is compatible with the R5 zoning. We calculated out our average lot size is 4.76. So we're actually in exceedance of that. And that's something that you can find in the land development code that would support this being compatible with the otherwise R5 zoned area.
So that property with the 2 stars on it that's bisected, that's one lot.
It's 1 5 acre, I think, parcel, not lot. I don't
Well, but you can have multiple parcels.
That's exactly right.
So is that one single lot could they build on both sides of that road?
I think they'd have to go through the process of the county to do a subdivision exemption. I'm not going to speak for the county.
But that is a single lot. So there should only be 1 star on there.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay. Hopefully you can correct that before you go to.
We will.
Great.
Any other questions for me or for our team? We do have our engineer here who's so far just looked good sitting there. We'd have to happily bring him up.
No, thank you.
Thank you all.
All right. Discussion. Ms. Fuller.
I have a question for staff. So there's discussion about that lawsuit, and I have a vague recollection of that conversation about 25 houses on the road, and then after we made our opinion on it, I didn't really follow it other than I saw little snippets that something had happened and had gone to court. Can you kind of give us a summary of what happened there? And I think did the commissioners approve it? And then the neighbors had a lawsuit and said,
yes. So the Board of County Commissioners did approve that subdivision development. And then a neighbor did file a lawsuit against the county. I guess that was found that there was no error in the process and that approval by the Board of County Commissioners was upheld. I don't know how much additional detail on the court order you would like, but the application was found to be approved by the Board of County Commissioners and the court upheld that approval.
so they said that the Board of County Commissioners acted within their authority and didn't violate the code.
Correct.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Other discussion? All right, we have to, we've got 2 things to vote on. One is the rezoning and then the final plat. So I will entertain a motion on agenda item 5A, file number P2413, map amendment rezoning Hidden Creek Estates. Too bad. Anybody like to make a motion? Ms. Chat.
I'll make a motion. Mr. Chair, and in regards to agenda item 5A, file number 2413 for a map amendment rezoning for Hidden Creek Estates rezone with 2 conditions and 2 notations. I move for approval in accordance with the attached resolution, conditions, notations, with a finding of sufficiency with regard to water quality and dependability, and that this be forwarded to the Board of County Commissioners for their consideration.
Thank you. I don't think we needed the water part of that, but
Oh.
we're ready.
Thank you.
All right. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Brew. Take the vote.
Can we discuss this
Sure.
before we vote?
Sure.
Okay. I struggled with this one ever since it came out, since I've read the file and all through the the hearing today, I've gone back and forth mentally. I'm not a big fan of this smaller lot. It seems to be smaller than others in the area. And like I said, I've gone back and forth on this, so I'll make up my mind here in the next few seconds.
Any other comments you'd like to make?
Regarding the smaller lot, you know, I'm with Mr. Trowbridge, that kind of back and forth. However, in my thinking, and hopefully I'm right, you know, the PUD was done next door because they couldn't do the 2.5. They did the PUD. And in essence, I'm thinking if they wouldn't have come with this and having that one smaller lot, that if they did put it in as a PUD, and I understand there's other things that go with a PUD file and application, then this would comply in a PUD because they can set their sizes and stuff. You know, there's open space requirements and a few different things. And so just in my head thinking with that smaller lot, if they would have went the PUD route, I think there wouldn't have been the questions and stuff like that. So for me, in that thinking, you know, I will probably be voting in favor of this.
Thanks. Ms. Fuller?
I like my counterparts. I struggle with this too. I do believe that our land use kind of use 2.5 and 5 acre lots the same. Although I realize they're not the same, but they are, you know, according to our land use, and the fact that that a Board of County Commissioners made a decision that 25 houses or accesses to the road, if I lived there, I would be alarmed by it. I would encourage people against this to maybe reach out to the Monument Fire Department, because what we have says it's okay. At this moment when we're making a decision, if they wanted to reach out, a persuasive rebuttal would be the Monument Fire Department says this is extremely dangerous. But reality is, without doing anything here, they can have 5 lots. So in essence, we're just asking for one more, and it's closely compliant. So I get it, but I think at the end, I'm going to be in favor.
Thanks. Other comments? I agree with Ms. Fuller. You know, it sounded like the main concerns out there were evacuation issues, which I totally agree with. However, the fire department approved this, and I think you guys would go a long way with meeting with them and figuring out why they keep approving these things. Last year, they approved 22 lots just south of here to go into the same road. So I think that's what needs to happen. And again, this one lot is one lot. It's one more house on the street. I understand that, out of 90 some that are there right now. So you know, I don't think there's a huge impact on the area for this one lot, because as Ms. Fuller said, there would be 5 lots here anyway. So I'll be voting in favor as well. All right, we ready for a vote? Any more comments? All right, on item 5A only, this is on just the rezone, file number P2413. Mr. Whitney.
I was hoping you'd start the other end.
He can. Come back to him.
So, apropos of comment by council, I am holding my nose and voting yes because of the constraints under which we operate. But I couldn't agree more that this is nuts. And as far as I'm concerned, the fire department ought to be addressing this cumulatively as a whole, not every single dinky application. But we have to consider every single dinky application. And from my perspective, holding my nose, it meets our criteria. So I'll vote yes.
Thank you. Mr. Trowbridge?
Aye.
Mr. Schipple?
Aye.
Ms. Fuller?
Aye.
Mr. Byers?
Nay.
Ms. Jack?
Aye.
Mr. Brew?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. So the item passes 7-1. and that is item 5A, P2413, map amendment rezone, Hidden Creek Estates. Yes, would you like to comment any further, Mr. Mayor?
I think most of my comments were fairly clear during the presentation. The key to me is that I didn't really hear a justification for the lot size. And based off of that, I chose to vote no.
All right, thank you. All right, then now we move on to item 5B, file number SF253, which is the final plat of Hidden Creek Estates final plat. Any discussion on that before we vote? Yes, we need a motion. That's what I meant.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Ms. Fuller.
With regards to agenda item 5B for file SF253 for final plat, Hidden Creek Estates final plat, I move for approval in accordance with the attached resolution with 6 conditions, 4 notations, and 1 waiver, and a finding of sufficiency for water quality, quantity, and dependability, and that this item be forwarded to the Board of County Commissioners for their consideration.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Jack, thank you. Any other discussion? Mr. Trubich?
So I just, now that we're over 2 hours in, I hope everybody has come away with a better appreciation of what this project is and what the process is, because this is the same process that the Board of County Commissioners goes through. So you've had your dry run, and now you hopefully can go home and hone your arguments for when you go meet the Board of County Commissioners next month. Thank you.
Great, thanks. All right, we'll take the vote. Mr. Brew? Aye. Ms. Jack?
Aye.
Mr. Byers? Ms. Fuller?
Aye.
Mr. Schipple?
Aye.
Trowbridge?
Aye.
Mr. Whitney?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That passes again, 7-1. Mr. Byers, any further comment?
No.
Great, thank you. Any further business? All right, we'll call the meeting adjourned.
Everybody.